Thank you for calling the Venue Helpline, the podcast where venues share their biggest frustrations, toughest challenges, and behind the scenes headaches. If you run a venue or work at one and you've ever thought, "Oh, why is this so hard?" you're in the right place. Each week, you'll hear practical solutions from vetted experts who've been there, done that, and know what actually works. Because running a venue is hard enough. You shouldn't have to figure it out alone. Now, let me put you on a brief hold for the next available helper.
Hi, glad you called. It's Shannon here with the Venue Help Desk. Tell me what's going on.
What are your thoughts on vendors drinking off of the open bar? We have a property wide rule where we do not allow vendors to consume alcohol from event open bar or any other property bar, as they are on the clock. We offer vendors soft drinks and water and snacks from our property at no additional charge to the couple. We have had a few occasions where the vendors have tattled on us and gone to the couple in the middle of dinner, causing the bride or bridesmaids to get upset that we are withholding beverages from the vendors that they are paying for and mistreating them. This is a policy at our venue because we have had vendors overconsume, inappropriately mingling with guests and driving home. What are your thoughts? Are we correct to enforce this rule, or should we agree everyone is an adult?
Ooh, this one is a hot topic. Vendors who drink at weddings. Man, I can't believe we have to talk about this. See, this isn't just a you problem. So many venues deal with this same exact problem. We hear common complaints from venues of things like vendors over consuming alcohol or the liability concerns that comes from an accident that could possibly happen. The couples just don't really understand the policies that go into this. But it's really important for you as the venue to focus on protecting the guest experience, really highlighting the importance of vendor professionalism because it's your reputation that is on the line. I hear what you're saying, that vendors feel entitled because the couple paid for the bar, but I don't know about at your venue, but at the venue I used to work at, we didn't include vendors in the bar count. So technically the couples didn't pay for their vendors to be drinking off the bar. And it could just be a simple miscommunication between the couples and the vendors on what was included for them. So let me walk you through a few suggestions of things you can do at your venue that might help you get ahead of this problem a little bit. First and foremost is going to be about setting super clear expectations up front. See, sometimes the couples or the vendor might not really understand the policy in regards to this. Maybe you don't even actually have a policy and it's time to make one. So if you are not a venue that provides either a welcome packet or a vendor rules and regulations that you send out to vendors, the alcohol policy should be a part of that. Take the time to write up a really clear what is allowed and not allowed when it comes to vendors who are working at your venue. Also, you can have the couples sign off on the vendor policy. This could be a part of your contract, or it could be a secondary doc that the couple sign as a part of the planning process. Just depends on how involved your venue is in that process with the couples. So think about just making it part of your contract, that if you have in your contract that all vendors who work at the venue have to be licensed and insured, you are more than welcome to just add in what the alcohol policy is. But you can phrase it in a very professional way for the safety of the guests and the vendors. Alcohol consumption while working events at our venue is not permitted, right? You're doing it from like a liability focused place of safety first than anything else. Another really important factor about this is you've got to communicate the why. Why does your venue have an alcohol policy when it comes to vendors? So you really need to take the time to explain it to the couples, because when you have the couples on your side in advance and they understand the policies, understand the procedures, it makes it a lot easier if, per se, they were, as a vendor, to go up to the couple on wedding day or make comments, the couple already knows in advance. So you want to explain to the couple why this matters and why it's important. One, it's about protecting their experience. Nothing is worse than having a sloppy behavior from a vendor who's potentially drunk at the wedding. Could you imagine? I'd die. The other is liability concerns for everyone involved. You want to make sure that the couples understand, right, that why hiring licensed and insured vendors and choosing professional quality partners to be part of that whole plan and the system of your wedding day, their liability and any protection you get from that is null and void if they've been drinking. So that's a really important factor. And the last is about setting the bar high. There should be an industry standard for professionalism when it comes to vendors working at your venue. And by saying that we don't allow this here, we don't allow this at our venue, it's not a part of who we are. We demand excellence from our vendor partners. This is so key and so important. It allows the couples to realize that you're setting the standard for how a professional vendor should act. You want to avoid framing it as like punitive and punishing them. You want to position it about being really a responsible host. When you're hosting an event, you want everyone to be doing a great job and executing on exactly what was expected, right? So getting the couples on board with your policies and your processes and why it's important is so important. Next up is ways you can maybe get ahead of it. It sounds like based upon what you told us, you might be doing a little bit of this already. You can offer some hospitality alternatives. There was a venue that once I worked at as a caterer, and they actually ended up taking what would have maybe been a green room and they turned it into a vendor break room. They had unlimited water, soft drinks, a bucket of ice, cups for us, coolers. It sounds like you're already doing some of these things and maybe they have access to it on the bar, which is great. But is there another space or another area that the vendors could go to take advantage of this without having to wait in line at the bar or taking up space where the guests would be served? You could also have maybe a coffee station or a mocktail station for vendors, whether it's that extra level of service during the dinner time break. But it's really nice when you do that little bit extra to take care of them. I promise you, they're also going to leave your venue saying, wow, this was a great experience. See, we just didn't allow them to ever even go up to the bar. We set an entirely separate station and an area. We also had a vendor snack station in this little area where we would put things like granola bars or chips or things. Because unlike some places and spaces, my venue had catering included at the hotel, in the resort that I was at. So there wasn't an outside caterer there. And our policy was that the vendors ate in a timely fashion to the best of our ability, but they didn't always eat first before the guests did. So we really took that time to say, let me make sure that you're taken care of, and here's the vendor snack basket. So if there is any opportunity within your space, maybe it's in the ready room after the fact, maybe you have a conference room you don't use normally on weddings and events, but think about how can you create hospitality alternatives that are not alcohol related. So there's really even no temptation or no confusion that a vendor is up getting a drink from a bar. One of the other most important factors that we haven't really talked about is we're trying to prevent conflict during an event. Nothing is worse than in the middle of an event, your staff and your team eyeballs and clocks and says, is that DJ getting a beer from the bar? It's going to happen though, no matter how much you do to try to get in front of it and explain to the couples and send out a policies doc to all of the vendors participating, there's still a chance of this happening. So I need you to take the time to train your staff on how to enforce your policies politely and professionally, meaning that you make it very clear to your service staff that no vendor is ever to be provided an alcoholic beverage. If they come up and ask for it, you just say, that's not really our policy here. We don't allow vendors to drink while they're working at the event. Now, there are times we've all been there as a venue when friends and family get hired to work the wedding. But one of the things we explained to our couples was that you are welcome to have people who are professional, we'll use air quotes there, professional vendors to service parts of your wedding. But when they are there, they are working that day. Whether you pay them or not, they are employed by your wedding to execute the event. So they cannot be both a guest where they're drinking and enjoying themselves and a vendor at the event at the same time. So there really should be one single point of contact on your team for any vendor issues. And it should never be the couple. If there's a challenge with the vendor, whether it's the planner, the captain, your on-site coordinator, whatever that looks like, the venue manager, there should be a single point of contact so that if anyone on the team sees a vendor out of pocket doing something they shouldn't, that's the person that they reach out to. Also, if a vendor ever complains about the policies you have in place, do not involve the bride or the couple. But you have to train your staff and train your team to follow these policies, right? That they shouldn't be talking to the couple being like, is it okay? No, it's never okay. Now, you can also create some event day signage if you have a little vendor break area that says, thank you for keeping it professional. Non-alcoholic drinks are available here. We did it all the time. But again, a lot of the challenges and things you're having might be because you're not setting proper expectations in advance. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen anyways. But you have to do everything that you can do in preparation and putting the systems in place inside of your business to make sure that as little of this happens as possible. But I do know how freaking frustrating it is. You can't even imagine to see. I have so many stories of vendors throughout my career that I look over and I clock them, and it's like they're drinking a beer during dinner. Sometimes as a vendor, they don't realize the effect and the optics, right? Because perception is reality. And maybe you're just having that one glass of wine. I go to a ton of networking events, and the majority of the time at networking events, I actually don't drink at all. I'm not saying I don't drink in life. I just don't drink much at networking events. Because if you've met me at all and hung out with me in person, you'll know that I'm a super duper lightweight. So a lot of the times it's about the perception versus the reality. And the vendors aren't thinking about the fact that when they try to drink at your weddings on your venue, that your impression in your head is, God, they don't really take their business seriously, or they don't really care about the liability of their behavior. So it's really a common mistake that if you can get in front of it to educate them and set your standards and your policies in place, it isn't really about being super rigid. It's about being, safe for the couple, the guests. It's about professionalism. And ultimately, it's a focus on the guest experience. Couples really often appreciate when the explanation from you is framed as you're trying to protect their day, right? That it's not just you're trying to be rigid and there's too many rules. You're trying to protect their experience and the guest experience. Setting these expectations as early as possible avoids the mid-event drama. Well, that's it for today's episode of the Venue Helpline. Thank you so much for listening. We love helping you tackle these real-life frustrations. Before you go, here's one last thing. Don't forget to submit your biggest venue frustration. We'd love to feature it in a future episode. The link's waiting for you down in this episode's show notes. And while you're in there, subscribe to our email list so these episodes can come straight to your inbox. Thanks for calling the Venue Helpline. Call back anytime that you've got another challenge for us.